Hi, good evening, everyone. I apologize for the clips in my hair, but I was getting ready to go to bed. This is how I have to wash my face now because my hair is so short. I can't really tie it together. I actually can tie it together like this, but sometimes I'm just lazy. So I was getting ready for bed and I was thinking a lot because lately I have been watching Gilmore Girls over again, and it is one of my favorite shows of all time. And every time I watch the show, I always get super emotional. And I was kind of thinking about the reasons why I get emotional watching this show. Normally, I don't really want to record a talkative topic like this right before bed, especially when I haven't actually thought through what I would say. Normally, when I make these videos, I actually write down, notes for talking points because I feel like if I just talk, I might miss out on something. And there are times where I think about a point that I would have loved to make that I totally forgot about, and it kind of sucks for me to forget about it. I feel like maybe now is just a good time for me to talk about it because I was thinking about it so much. I just got done watching like 2 to 3 episodes. Maybe some of what I feel towards watching the show might help people to get to know me better and maybe understand why I like it so much. So it might be hard for people to understand, but generally the gist of the show really is just that a mother-daughter on the show, they're the main characters, and they have a really strong bond. They're basically friends first and then mother-daughter second. And the show is really just about their life together in a small town in Connecticut. And the mother has rich parents that she kind of ran away from. She got pregnant at 16 with her daughter and raised her elsewhere because she just didn't like the life that her rich parents were forcing on her. So she has a very strained relationship with her parents, and you see it throughout the show. But at the same time, her parents and her kind of try their best to kind of keep each other in their lives because they're family and they have a lot of differences, but they still try to make it work. Anytime I see them having their problems and not being able to understand each other, obviously we all relate to that in different ways. I can definitely say that my relationship with my parents now is significantly better than it was when I was a teenager. Absolutely. But at the same time, there have always been certain things where I definitely feel like they don't even listen to me at all. I feel like that is a problem for a lot of parents, and I sometimes find it so hard to understand why, because there are just certain things that they have repeated to me over and over throughout my adult life that I have repeatedly said the same response back every time. Maybe when it comes to lately, some topic that we have been talking about a lot is real estate, because my parents came here in February, and while they were here, we went to look at a lot of houses because they were kind of interested in seeing if they could afford to move out here because they like the weather and they're kind of tired of living in New Jersey. The property tax is very high and it's cold and it snows, and I would love to see them experience weather like this year round. So they tend to bring up a lot the idea for me to buy a condo as like my transitional place to live until I can buy a house. And I can understand why they suggest that, right? They don't like the idea that I pay so much for rent. They think that if I put my money towards a mortgage, it would be a better investment. Where we differ is that I would never sacrifice quality of life for a smarter choice. I don't even know if that was the right way to use it, but basically what I mean is that living in a condo, I kind of know already right off the bat that I wouldn't be happy in an arrangement like that. And there is an exception, which I have told my parents countless times, but we still have the same conversation about this, where they were like, you were living in a condo in New Jersey, what is different now? And I would tell them that the layout of our condo in New Jersey was actually pretty nice because the main area that I was kind of sharing an entrance is just the person on the same floor as me. But just the way that the entrances were set up, you did not feel crowded. once you go out of your condo, there's just a lot of open space around, and it's not like doors lined up next to each other like in an apartment. It was more open, and I definitely felt like I wasn't just suffocated living so close to other people. The specific condo that I was living in didn't really have noise issues. Like I wasn't having other people disturb me. In fact, I hear more noise here than when I lived in that condo. But aside from that, that community seemed like it was more older people, and maybe that's why there isn't that much noise going on. But they would constantly tell me, you know, hey, maybe if you want, buy a condo first and then move into a house. That way maybe you can rent the condo or sell the condo when you're ready to buy a house, something like that. And I would just tell them that A, I have zero savings to even buy a condo. It's gonna take me forever to save enough for a down payment, I feel like. And even if I did save enough for a down payment, I don't think I would feel good about buying something I'm not 100% for. And we would have these conversations, these exact discussions over and over. But it's just, you know, frustrating that they would still bring up the same question and topic and not hear my response. So this in particular wasn't really a topic that infuriated me, but it does still frustrate me that, you know, we're going around in circles, we're achieving nothing. And I guess another thing that I feel like is another thing that they don't hear me about is something as simple as using technology, right? Parents, depending on their personality types or their willingness to learn, they suck at new technology, right? So they have been wanting to video chat with me for a long time now, but for some reason, they insist on using this one app that is Chinese, I believe, and I have tried using it with them in the past, but I dislike it so much because there's a delay or there's a lag. It's just not smooth video, and I don't want to be having a conversation with them through video that looks like a slideshow. So I uninstalled it off my phone and I haven't been using it. And my mom would always ask me like, why are you never on? I want to see you when I talk to you. I have told them about other apps that we could use that would work better, that would be smoother. Something that I have never tried before is the Google Duo. And I just get the feeling that that app would work out very well. So I even sent my dad the link to install the app, but I just know that he won't do it. He will struggle with something like installing an app. And it just frustrates me because I was watching Searching the other day with John Cho, and in that movie, they showed a lot of communication between parent and child through video chat. And when I was watching that movie, I just thought that video chatting with someone actually is pretty nice, especially when it comes to family, because for some reason, I never used to video chat much at all, especially when it came to a boyfriend. And I feel like that's something that people in relationships like to do a lot, but I just never really did it. But nowadays, I feel like if it was like a quick on-the-go thing on your phone, it might not be so bad. So just watching that movie reminded me of my ongoing frustration of us not video chatting because they insist on using this crappy app and I insist on not using a crappy app. So we are kind of struggling there. Another thing that I find very interesting about Gilmore Girls, I guess, I feel like I live through Rory, one of the main characters, the teenager. She's like going through school and she's a very smart student and she ends up going to Yale. I think what I find interesting is usually just that she is probably nothing like me, but at the same time, she's a very nice girl. She's likable. Whenever there are school functions or it shows her doing schoolwork and being very hardworking and any of that other teenager experience, I find it very interesting to watch because I feel like my experience was nothing like that. I was a good student up until, I guess, high school. I was an AB student in high school, whereas before that I was like nearly straight A's kind of thing. But After a while, I feel like the obsession over grades and stuff just started fading away from me. Um, Obviously, with Chinese parents, grades were everything, and I wrote about this in my blog about me, but grades were definitely everything because I really wanted to watch NBA on ESPN, and I really needed to convince my dad to let me have it. And the only way he would do that is through a deal that if I ever got a B, he would take it away from me. And I did get a B eventually, so it was taken away. I don't know, I feel like I just reached a rebellious phase in my teenage years. And this wasn't really about my parents though, because I feel like it was strongest for me in college, where I just hated the emphasis on GPA. I still hate it. I hate school. So the fact that I am super opposite of Rory in regards to that, I just find interesting because I do think there are times where I wished that I was more interested in learning in that environment, because maybe the way they show it on the show seems very interesting or intriguing, but real life, maybe it's not the same way for me. I definitely stopped caring about grades as much in college, in the sense that all I cared about was to graduate. I did not care about my GPA very much at all, because I firmly just don't think that GPA is a good indicator for someone's intelligence. And it pissed me off so much that there would be companies that would require a minimum GPA for you to apply to them. So I would just be that person that would be like, I don't even want to work for a company that has a minimum requirement for a GPA if you think that demonstrates full intelligence for a person. So that's just kind of the person that I am. I failed a math class my freshman year of college. That was the first time I ever failed a class. So that was very scary for me, I guess, that whole failing class kind of thing. I even got a D in one of my computer classes that I think the fact that I got a D might not have counted towards my graduating, and I might have had to take another course to kind of make up for it. So that was a little worrisome. I think when I got that grade, I was really concerned that I would be pushing back whenever I would graduate. The way that I viewed school was super rigid. So the fact that I was concerned that I would be not graduating in 4 years, I just always assumed school's a 4-year thing in high school, then 4 years in college, then you graduate. So if it was like ever more than that, I was kind of really nervous about it. I was super concerned, and I firmly believe that the main reason I finished school was because of my parents, just knowing how much they were spending. Not entirely, I still don't feel like I was very good at understanding that aspect at that age, but I just felt like there was no other option, right? If I didn't go to school or finish or get my degree, then they're gonna be super mad at me and all of that stuff. I don't think I would be that adamant to just drop out of school, but I just knew that I hated my school experience. So I was just super glad to get it over with. Didn't even go to graduation, even though they wanted me to. And that is always something that I feel a little bit bad about, but I just hated school and I wanted nothing to do with it ever again after I was done. So to see Rory being super, super smart and doing very well in her courses and being very interested, and she's also very social and stuff. I was extremely social up until a point. And, you know, sometimes whenever I'm in social situations now, I still analyze all of that. Recently, last week, I had a lunch with my team, which I feel weird to say my team because they're not really my team. They're just the people under my manager. And I do know pretty much all of them now, but I never talk to any of them except these lunches. I only talk to that one coworker. So whenever we have these team meetings, or lunches, sorry, I find it so interesting maybe because there is always that level of intrigue for me as to how I will do in this situation, how much will I enjoy it, how badly might I want to leave because I'm not enjoying it. So these past two instances, we had one around Thanksgiving and then we had one last week, they were surprisingly not that bad. The one around Thanksgiving, at first, that one was not feeling so great because, I don't know, I was feeling like maybe there wasn't going to be a lot of interesting things to talk about, and I'm that loser that focuses so much on being agitated that I have to sit through an hour of traffic, that's just something that I ended up thinking about a lot. But what ended up happening was that they had a ping pong table, and when I saw some of our coworkers playing on it, I was just looking over there. I can be a little shy, I guess, in that aspect, so I saw them playing, but I was nervous to go over there and join them. But then eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go and play some, and I had a really good time. We had a ping pong table in our basement for the longest time, but it was not really something we played much outside of like parties or friends coming over. But I'm pretty decent at it, so we ended up doing 2-on-2 with people, and we were switching in and out, and it was just a good amount of fun. I will probably say that the ping pong table probably made that experience more fun than usual, but I am just so not used to being in social situations that anytime I go, I'm always just happy that I still managed to enjoy it and that I'm still able to have decent conversations with people. Another aspect of her school life that I do find interesting as well is the whole boy aspect. So for me, I actually feel like my past boy experiences were not very traditional. I just feel like I never had a boyfriend in school, actually. I did have a boyfriend while I was in school, but I met him on WoW. My first boyfriend was somebody that I met in WoW. He lived in Chicago, and he was actually like 5 years older than me, but we did meet a few times in person, but that's kind of what I mean. Like, my experience with boys in school is not the same at all as most girls would have, I guess. Like, I never had a boyfriend that was in my school, that was in my state from school. He was the only guy that I dated while I was ever in school, and all of my other boyfriends after that happened after I graduated. Seeing, these petty teenager liking boys things is fun for me to see because I never had that experience. There were a few boys that I had crushes on, and maybe I heard from friends when I had friends that there was a boy that had a crush on me, but none of that ever turned into dating. So, I had a hint of it, but not even close to the full deal. Or there would be events and stuff. I never went to any dances. By the time prom happened, I had zero interest in socializing and talking to anybody else that I didn't even care or want to go to prom. So it didn't bother me that I didn't go to prom. It still doesn't bother me. I don't regret it at all because at the time, I don't really think there was anybody that I was really eager to go with, and I pretty much stopped interacting or socializing with my friends that I had. Like, we stopped being friends, probably from my own choice, but there's just a lot that they show in her life on the show that is interesting for me to see as somebody that is introverted and not as willing to be open, I guess. It's just a really great show. I can't believe it was 18 years ago. I think it started in 2000. The relationship they have also as mother and daughter is very, very nice. And I feel like it would be really awesome to have that sort of relationship with your mother. There are definitely times where I wish that I spoke to my parents more, even through text message. I think it would be really nice just to talk about anything random. But I feel like when it comes to my parents, we are only able to talk about very specific topics, and if it's not interesting in specific ways to them, then I don't think they really care to discuss it much. So for example, even though my mom tends to ask me a lot if I have a boyfriend or not, if I talk to her about potential guys that I've met throughout the year that relates to the romance topic, she's still not really interested unless they probably actually became a boyfriend, because I told her about the STEAM guy, I told her about my trainer, and she didn't seem interested, which I was like, why the heck do you ask me about any potential guys if I tell you stories and you don't even seem interested? So the show is so heartwarming. It makes me cry, it makes me emotional. I just wished I could watch it forever. They did a revival of the show on Netflix a couple years ago, and I remember distinctly when it was about to be released on a certain day, and it would be like, I don't know, 1.5 times 4 hours worth of episodes. I was really excited, but I do think I was disappointed by this revival. I haven't really watched it since. I just stick to the original show because that is what I fell in love with in the first place. I feel like it's just one of those things where you really love something and then you spend a lot of time away from it, and then you randomly think about it again, like, I want to watch that show again. I want to watch an episode here or there. And then I watched it maybe a month or two ago, one episode, just a random one. And since then, I have been really eager to keep watching onwards over and over. And it's just interesting to me to see how something you love, you take a step away from it, but then when you come back, you just really love it super deeply. Something that I would really like, I guess, when it comes to stuff like this, is to not feel like me talking for 30 minutes is rambling that nobody wants to hear, because I don't know, some of you guys find it interesting, and I have definitely gotten compliments from people who say that they find my thought process interesting. So I often feel like whenever I'm done recording long talking sessions like this, that nobody is going to want to listen to this, or like, this was such a waste. But I want that confidence to just be like, whatever. I wanted to kind of talk through my thoughts about the show, and I decided that I wanted to put it into a video. So if nobody watches it, that's okay. But because I feel like maybe part of the enjoyment for me is getting to sort through my thoughts and talk about what I was thinking about so much while watching the show tonight. Sorry if I stumbled on my words at all. You know what? No apologizing either. I am not very good at speaking smoothly sometimes. I definitely stumble on my words, so that's normal. We're not perfect, right? But I definitely should go to sleep because these past few days have been messed up by Dota. So I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, and have a good night.